गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरुसाक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं यत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। We always try to remember why we are reading all these books and why we are born in India. The promise divine, which I say, is the freedom given to India was a divine event. Other freedoms, they had to fight for it. It was the lower mind asking for freedom. Here, it was a over mind giving freedom. This concept you try to understand. Until and unless we don't understand this point, we miss the real spirit in which we have to read it. We have to guide humanity towards higher levels of consciousness. I used a plural there, levels of consciousness. Not only in mind, but above mind also. Sri Aurobindo very clearly points out that from mind, if supermind is the evolutionary point, naturally from supermind, there will be something else. But we will come to that when we reach there, not theoretically. So, majority of our discussions or approach towards this synthesis of yoga will be basically up to the level of below supermind. Sometimes aspiring to understand what supermind is. But that does not say that is where Sri Aurobindo has put the limit. He has crossed all those things. But for us who are reading this book, it is better if we limit ourselves towards the possibility of thinking the supermind into ourselves. In this, you go to the last slides. Interior. That is what is known. The Lord of the Yoga is Purusha. But from this moment onwards, for us, the Lord of our Yoga is not Purusha, it is Prakriti. The stress has changed. Now, instead of a descent, it is an ascent. Next slide. The method we have to pursue then is to put our whole conscious being into relation and contact with the divine, and to call him in to transform our entire being into his. This is the basic definition and also the process with which we have to go. Everywhere it is the divine which should be our measuring rod, our litmus test. And naturally we will fail hundreds of times, no doubt about it. But every time you should call him. That is what is known as Ananya Chinta. You should be continuously aware every second of your life that you take care of me. I am trying my best, but our best before his power is zero. He is infinite. So this spirit, we should always remember, the pull of the divine, aspiration towards the divine. Continuously, it is just a feeling. What generally many people say, gut feeling. And in chakra language, we can call it as a Manipuraka feeling, the gut. When we are afraid or when we are ready to fight, it is the Manipuraka where something happens. And that should continuously happen. Continuously happen. Thus, in a sense, God Himself, the real person in us, becomes the sadhaka of the sadhana as well as the master of the yoga. This is what you should realize every moment of your sadhana. You are not doing the sadhana. You are supposed to be rejected. You means what? Your mind, your emotions, your physical body's reactions. All these have to be rejected, thrown out. And then what happens? He becomes the real sadhaka. Our sadhana is only not to disturb him. I remember in the childhood, I once read a book titled Good Boy in Hindi, Acha Balak. It was printed by Gita Press Gorakhpur. And there it was written that a good boy always helps his parents, his mother, etc., etc. And so I went to the kitchen and started helping my mother. She said, if you go out, that will be the best help. Because, so that is what we are supposed to do. Let the divine be in and let us go out. This is the real spirit with which we do the sadhana. You try to understand and read it, because the more you read, I told you that these words by Sri Aurobindo are mantric in nature. A mantra manifests itself. That is what we mean by a mantra. So these spirit, where first is the whole conscious being is put into relation and contact with the divine, and to call him in to transform our entire being into his. And then what we should see? We should feel that the real sadhana is being done by him, not by us. Because what is going to happen is, you are really being pushed out in this sadhana. Your physical body will be transformed. It has to transform. Next, your vital body will be transformed. And next, your mental body will be transformed. So when these three bodies are transformed, no more it will be you who are doing the sadhana. It is the power which is transforming you is going to do the sadhana for you. This method translates itself into the progressive surrender of the ego with its whole field and all its apparatus to the beyond ego with its vast and incalculable but always inevitable workings. So now we can divide our yoga into two levels, the egoic level and the beyond yoga level. The egoic level has to go. But we start with this. I am doing the sadhana, I am reading this book, it's okay. But what should happen? The beyond yoga ego must take over you. Now the question comes, when we don't know what is beyond yoga, how can we surrender to it? By knowing its laws. We don't see electricity, but you can use electricity. How? By knowing its laws. And the principal law is that you attract what you aspire for. That is the first law you have to remember. It is irrevocable. You will get what you aspire for, not what you wish for. You should understand the difference between a wish and an aspiration. Generally, when I go to my first BSc class, I used to ask them, why have you joined this MPC group? All of them answered, because they couldn't get a seat in engineering. Then I said, you didn't get a seat in engineering because you only wished for it. You didn't aspire for it. Because you didn't get an engineering seat, okay, next best, then next best. That is not the process here. All life is yoga. That is what you have to continuously remember. And what is yoga? Progress in evolution. And how can you proceed in evolution? When the higher transforms you. You cannot transform yourself. It is always the higher power which transforms the lower power. In this series, we have first the Annamaya and Pranamaya koshas transformed by the vital power. The physical body now, this body with our nervous system. Actually, until and unless you have some problem with it, you are not conscious of it. Not being conscious of your body itself is a proof that you are healthy. One of my gurus used to say, when someone complained that he has got a headache, he said, naturally, it proves that you know you have a head. Do you understand the subtlety of the humor? If you are healthy and if you are utilizing your head, you don't know that you have a head. Do you feel it? You don't feel it. But when you are conscious of your body, what does it mean? That there is something wrong with your body. So what does it convey? That some higher nature, now for all of us, the desire nature has transformed our body in such a way that we react for your desires immediately and instantaneously, especially for the animal desires. Many of the thefts are caused because of hunger. Later, something else. So, ahara is the first cause for mismanagement of the body or misuse of the body. So, what desire transforms the body. Mind should transform the desire. That has not happened to us. For majority of us, it is the desire which is more important than the mind. That is why it is said as the desire mind or kama manas. In our yogic literature, we call it kama manas, where your desire is 90% active and thought is only a process of how to get your desire fulfilled. Even the mind you use is not a pure thought. It is only a process of how you want to get your desire. So what I want to convey is the higher fashions the lower. Now if you allow your mind to be fashioned, the supermind has to fashion it. Because mind by itself can't fashion it. You have to go to a higher power. So that is the basis. Our mind gives us a feeling that we are real entities. Later we will discuss about the philosophical concepts. You just accept it, that it is our ignorance that gives us a feeling of egoism. That you feel that you are you is actually a misnomer. That is the beyond ego state. So you allow the beyond ego state to mold your ego. How do you do it? Certainly there is no shortcut or easy sadhana. That's the problem. There is no shortcuts. And the desire mind always wants shortcut. Always. It requires a colossal faith, and whenever we read Sri Aurobindo's sentences, Every adjective has a meaning. They are all mantras. So just faith is not enough. Yes, Sri Aurobindo has said, yes, the supramental descent will be there. Yes, the world will change. That is not required. What is required is a colossal faith. Can you understand what it means? High magnitude faith, an absolute courage. And when once you start on this way, your own mind and your own desires sometimes tell you, probably I can't do it. Because we lack in the faith. Then what do you have to do? You should have the courage. And what type of courage? Absolute courage. And above all, that is what we don't have. Unflinching patience. And that is where many times I think we can have Shirdi Sai as a role model for our starting stages. Shraddha, Saburi, faith, patience. And then Allah Malik. Having complete faith in the divine. So in the initial stages of our sadhana, probably Shirdi Sai is the best role model. As for intuitive mind sadhana, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is the best model. So all these have to be integrated. All these personalities, don't think them as a personalities. They think them as a role model for our mental body to copy till we can reach that stage. And the absolute stillness of mind, that is what Ramana Maharshi has given to the world. Be still and know that you are God. And in the divine works of yoga, when Sri Aurobindo talks about concentration, he mentions about the stillness. And many times there was an interaction between Sri Aurobindo, Ramana Maharshi, and I don't know whether you have heard his name. He is known as Nayana, Kavya Kantha Ganapata Muni. He went to Sri Aurobindo's ashram where mother received him and gave him some important suggestions. So what I want you integrate all these sadhakas and teachers so that you can reach your inner guru. And once you reach your inner guru, you are on the path of the integral yoga. Next. From one stage to one stage to one stage to one stage, even in education, it happens. First stage, suppose one is in the 8th class. So what does his ego do? He tried to understand the entire knowledge of 8th class. When it understands the knowledge of 8th class, he has to give an examination. And you remember when Sri Aurobindo said that all life is yoga, every problem is an examination of the truths you have understood and how you are going to put it into practice. So don't try to run away from any problem. You start from where you are. You try to understand why a particular problem is given. In an examination, a problem is given not to tease the student, not to harass the student, but a teacher who has taught him knows that he can answer that problem because he has taught that problem. Out of syllabus questions don't come, either in examinations or in your regular life also. So every problem you have, if you can look it as a problem which nature knows that you can solve. It is not that you cannot solve the problem. If your level of evolution is in such a way that you cannot solve that problem will not come to you. This is what is known as Shraddha. You should have first this faith that this problem I want to avoid. Don't avoid any problem, whether you like a person or you dislike a person. You try to understand why you like him and why you dislike him. And you remember, like and dislike is a ego problem. Beyond ego, there is neither a gives liking nor a disliking. There is only equality. Samatvam yoga uchyate. I am anticipating the coming slides because I have to go fast. So when you see equality, you remember this point, what I am telling you. So wherever there is a sukha and a dukkha, sukha dukkhe samo krutva, labha labho jaya jayo, tato yuddhaya yuddhasva. So any problem, the result is not important. How you faced it is important. Did you face it with faith? Did you face it with courage? Did you face it with patience? Only three. Faith means you know you have the answer for that problem. When a student goes to the examination hall, what is expected of him? He has the answer to all the problems. The thing is, he should have finished the syllabus. He should have covered all the topics. So sometimes many students leave some chapters. I know as a lecturer, I also advise people, this chapter is not a, leave it. And now that becomes a defect in his development. And when he goes to a higher class, this defect is exposed. And nature will not allow it. That is where the recoil comes. When from the level of Arjuna, where we are supposed to enter the overmind state, he said, no, I won't fight. Then what happened? A recoil happened. And many people ask him, one man has said that, and why the entire humanity must suffer? Because he is representing humanity. When a president signs something, the entire country is bound by that, whether you like it or not. So this process, the attempt of the ego to enter into contact with the divine, the first step is all problems can be solved. Any problem which comes to you, whether it is cancer, whether it is diabetes, what the modern doctors call it as incurable. They are curable because you got it. The simple logic is because you have got it, it is curable. That is what we say, the ego to enter into contact with the divine. You know, with the divine blessings, we know that everything is curable. You understood the spirit of that sentence? Whatever is given to you in this world is given by the divine. And once you know and don't pay only a lip service, but you really feel it, do you run away from that place or you will stay in that place? That's the answer. Then what happens? When you are put into the examination, that is the first level, you go to the divine and you say he will do the work. The wide, full and laborious preparation of whole lower nature by the divine, working to receive and become the higher nature. And now why all these examinations are being put? So that this brain of the 8th class student can receive the higher level of education, the 9th class. So this examination is, the divine is working to receive and become the higher nature. You just translate what I am talking about a normal examination to an integrated examination of your body, emotions and mind. I think you can easily equate it. So why these examinations? Why this tough book? Many people find this book very tough. And I do find it tough, but I also find it interesting. And when it is, once it is interesting, you will start reading it. So this is what it will do. It will prepare you to receive the higher nature. and then of course the eventual transformation. So these are the three steps of any yoga or any examination. First is face the examination with your knowledge. And why? To receive higher knowledge and then transform yourself to a higher level. Next. There are three outstanding features of this action of the higher when it works integrally on the lower nature. The dominant word here is integrally. Any force which works from above always works integrally. Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam. Only from below you have the division. And therefore, to try to understand the integral yoga also, we divide it into so many chapters and read it. Whereas, if it is integral, one look and you should get it. But we can only integrate part by part, because we are coming from below. Now, when it works integrally, you just always remember that you are a 3-in-1 man. You have thoughts, you have desires, you have a ability to work. You are a 3-in-1 man. Then it is very easy for you to understand that your body and the other man's body are not similar. They may have the same parts functioning in the same way, but they are not similar. Then the desires, they are not similar. Then the thoughts, they are not similar. But as you go up, the field widens. The physical body is only this much. But the desire body, God only knows how many desires we have. And thoughts, infinite. So it does not act according to a fixed system and succession as in the specialized methods of yoga. So this is first what you have to understand. And when you want to understand this, you always remember that yoga means a very, very fast way of evolution. So if every day, if you can't feel that speed, that means you are not practicing a yoga, but you are practicing a fixed system. And a fixed system is not integral yoga. So, practicing a mantra is easy. Practicing a pranayama is easy. Practicing an asana is easy. But in integral yoga, you can't do that. But you should know how a asana and a pranayama, which is useful to you. You have to decide yourself. So you can't say a fixed part. Got the point? The free and scattered, purposeful working determined by the temperament of the individual. Now we have three temperaments. You always remember that whatever you are, either you are working with a body, or you are working with your desires, or you are working with thoughts, and of course all the three intermingling every time. That is why we say it's free and scattered. Now that's the problem, where you should know the temperament of the individual, and this temperament later we will find is known as the sattva temperament, or the rajasic temperament, or the tamasic temperament. So I am almost finishing the chapters till the page 283. I am touching all those points, and when I show the slide, I say I already told you, and go to the next slide. So you have three temperaments, what is known as the Triguna. And the basic integral concept, only the concept, not the details, as given in yoga, in Gita, Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna, Nirdvandvo, Nitya Sattvastho, Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. The wonderful shloka almost giving the spirit of the integral approach towards yoga. What does it say? Traigunya Vishaya Veda. You understand nature by the three qualities, either by the sattva principle, or by the rajasic principle, or by the tamasic principle. And these principles are very simple to understand. When you have an inertia to face, it is tamasic. You understand inertia? The first law of Newton's. A body continues to be in its state of motion or rest till something else works on it. That is inertia. That means you don't want any change. When you don't want any change, you remember you are tamasic. It goes on. The physics says if a body is in motion, it continues to be in motion. That is tamas. If it is in a state of rest, it will be in a state of rest. That is tamas. Until something external works on it. That external work is rajasic. Following the principles, inertia means not being jada, continuing where you are. That is why many people after some age don't want any promotions or don't want any change in life because of inertia, because of tamasic nature. I could explain to you what tamas means. In the yogic literature, tamas means not the inertia, the jadatva, but it means you dislike to have a change. I don't want to be changed and I am happy wherever I am. And now, when you are happy wherever you are, nature of course will not allow you to be like that. Then what will it show? It will put some external constraints. It will make you move. Those external constraints which make you get up from your inertia is rajasic. And now this moves you. Inertia does not want to move. Then what should happen? There must be a balance between these two. If not, you want to go there, you move fast, you will go somewhere else. So you should move. The rajas must be there, but it will be properly mixed with the inertia so that you have a harmony between not acting and overacting. Then you have an illumination there, you have a light there, you have a prakasha there, because you know where you are going. You are not overreaching this target and you are not underreaching the target, you are reaching the target. That is sattva. But the broad lines of working can be developed as a shastra of a synthetic yoga. Next. Accepts our past evolution without rejecting anything essential. The operating word in this sentence is essential. Now we are talking about a higher power pushing all the three lower natures in us. The thoughts, the desires, the actions, the physical body. Or if you can say, we can say it as the manomay sharira, the kamamay sharira, or the pranamay sharira, and the annamay sharira. And instead of sharira, if you put purusha, we will be approaching the integral language. Annamay purusha, pranamay purusha, and manomay purusha. So what is happening? You understand now, you are not confusing with this nomenclature. Manomay purusha means your thoughts. Pranamay purusha means your consciousness which forces you to desire. Prana makes you to live and desire. Life is therefore prana. So first is the manomaya purusha. In our integral yoga, the higher beyond yoga ego power accepts our past evolution of manomaya purusha. And then it accepts our past evolution of pranamaya purusha. And also it accepts the evolution of our annamaya purusha, the physical body, The desires and thoughts it accepts, that is essential for your development, for your evolution. And what is not essential, it throws out. Compels all to undergo a divine change. What is not necessary will be thrown out and rejected, and what is essential is transformed by the divine touch. And what you are supposed to do is, you try to understand the transformation that is going on. And sometimes the transformation are not visible. For example, people say you do this exercise, this muscle will grow. Do it 10 times per day. You do it for one day and leave it. What happens? Something happens. It doesn't mean that because you have done 10 times you didn't get anything. But suppose you do it regularly with faith on the man who told you to do this, and then you should have a courage to do it. Because some people say this man wants to become a pahalwan by doing this. And because somebody criticizes you, he becomes more important than your guru. Then who is your real guru, you decide. Many times I have found that many people do not undertake an activity which has been given by their guru because somebody criticizes them, somebody laughs at them, and he stops those activities. Then who is the real guru? The man who criticized you, who laughed at you. Okay, thank you for your intelligence to leaving your guru and making a man who doesn't know about the subject and criticizing you your guru. Remember this. This is the fault which many of us do. It doesn't matter what the other man thinks. Do you have a faith that the process is correct? Do you have the courage to face the criticism? That is enough. And if you have the patience to do it, the result is there. You understood what is essential in the divine change? Next. The divine power uses all life as a means of this integral yoga. This you remember. At the most unopportune time, the integral yoga comes in. When you sit for meditation and this and that, it won't do anything, it will just. But somewhere you are in the office working on a very big problem, suddenly it interferes. Many times, many of you will feel this, and you should be aware of it. The divine power uses all life. That is important. And you always remember, when you are examined by someone who is a competent authority, he will try to examine when you are unawares. Is it not? That is what group interviews and campus interviews are supposed to be. They should not know that they are being interviewed. But the interviews are being when an expert comes, or when some what we call the supervisors, or what they are called, those who check offices, auditors are someone, you understand them, someone who comes, they should not announce and come. If they announce and come, what is their check? You are already prepared. It's the inspectors. Be aware of this. In integral yoga, the divine pressure and the divine examination. First he examines you, tests you, and then if you pass it, he will transform you. So be aware always. That is why always be conscious. Be conscious that you are a sadhaka. Every experience and outer contact with our world environment, however trifling or however disastrous, is used for the work. And now, this outer contact with our world environment is exactly what happens when you read a newspaper. Is it not? What happens when you read a newspaper? You are conscious of the world environment. However disastrous, it may be a tsunami hitting something, or maybe the Indian cricketers returning home without the World Cup. For many it is a disastrous event. Is used, or you as students of integral yoga Understand this with your reading of newspapers, correlate it. Whenever you read a newspaper, if you read it with this approach, that you are exposed to the world environment, and when you especially hear the TV clippings, where actually the situation is shown you in reality. So this is a beautiful yoga appliance that you have, and many of us feel that you should not see TV. You should see TV, but with this. So it is the approach which is important. It is not the item which is important. Always remember a story told by my guru. A temple was being built. People were hewing the rocks. One man was asked why he was cutting the stone. He said, "What can I do? The government is so incapable. I am a graduate and I didn't get a job. To hell with this." He asked the other one. He said, "I have a family. I didn't get any other job. But thanks to them who is building the temple, at least I can feed my family for these few months." And they approached the third one. He wept with tears of joy. He said, "I am building a temple." So it is not the work what you are doing is important. It is the approach to the work which is important. And this is what we mean by the divine work. When the divine works through you, everything becomes transformed. You will love it. So it is not the situation which is important. Whether you are a housewife and you are cooking food. If you know what to cook and how to cook, if you know what food should be given when he is going to an examination, what food has to be given when he is going to play cricket, your cooking itself is a yoga. So, every experience and every outer contact with our world environment, however trifling or however disastrous, is used for the work, and every inner experience, even to the most repellent suffering or the most humiliating fall, becomes a step onto the path of perfection. Next. 1 up to 283 pages. Let us see what I can do. The 4 aids. For any yoga, or to be exact, for any knowledge you want to develop, you should have a shastra, a science, a methodically developed science, and then you should have a utsaha to read it. If you don't want to read it, no use. And then you should have a teacher. And of course, the time must be appropriate, kala. About this last one we are sure. This particular time is the best time to read and master the synthesis of yoga, because someone who is more capable than us has confirmed it. And he is our guru also. So we have these two. What we have to do is, we should have the zeal to practice it. Not just here come, no. I have asked you a question about Shankara and Ramanuja and nobody replied. I doesn't mind it. Because if you have replied, I would have been wonderstruck. Huh? The sincerity, the utsaha. Maybe you are wrong and don't think I am right also. It is my analysis according to the Shastra. So, Utsaha and Shastra is what we have to give to the time and Guru. Right, now, for the sadhaka of integral yoga, it is in page 55. If you are going through the pages, I am not going very fast now. You are able to get it? The pages? For the sadhaka of integral yoga, it is necessary to remember that no written shastra, however great its authority or however large its spirit, can be more than a partial expression of the eternal knowledge. This is what we have to remember. We are not going to decry or delimit or denounce any book. Each is a part in the integral yoga. But what he means is, it can be only a partial expression. That is what you should remember, because something new is coming. When I was a student of MSc, a new chemistry paper was introduced, quantum chemistry. And there was no teacher for it. Because quantum chemistry, when it was discovered, all my professors were already 20 years working as lecturers. They didn't read it. So does it mean that the old books of science has to be thrown away? They don't deal with the new development. The new development will be given by the Guru. But the old development you have to follow before you can reach the stage of the level where your Guru wants to start your sadhana. Therefore, a sadhaka of the integral yoga, he will use but never bind himself even by the greatest scriptures. His yoga may be governed for a long time. How carefully Sri Aurobindo uses the words. He didn't say that just because you are integral yoga sadhaka, you need not use the scriptures and you can use it for a small time and leave it. He says, you may be governed for a long time by one scripture or by several successively, if it is in the line of the great Hindu tradition, by the Gita, for example, the Upanishads and the Vedas. Clear? Next. The supreme Shastra of the integral yoga is the eternal Veda's secret in the heart of every thinking and living being. This is what I was quoting in the Gita, Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Knowledge you get by the three gunas, as I said, by Sattva, Raja and Tamas. But the integral yoga, Nirdvandvo, Nitya Sattvasto, you should become beyond the, what we call, the doubles, the dvandvas, the positive and the negative, liking and disliking, suffering and joy, winning and losing. These are dvandvas. You have to become nirdvandva. What? In this yoga of work, Sri Aurobindo says it as equality. Nirdvandvo nitya sattvastho. You be concentrated in your existence. Niryoga kshema. You don't have any work for any yoga or for any kshema. Yoga means what you want. Kshema means protection of what you already have. Niryoga kshema. And then what you have to become? Become the self with the capital S. Atmavan. So this and that shloka of Gita, that is where Sri Aurobindo always mentions that Gita has hinted about the integral yoga, but almost it, when it reached and just hinted, somehow it stopped. That is the recoil. That is the recoil. Why I am always stressing about the recoil? Whenever you are faced with a problem and you don't solve it and run away from it, you are facing a recoiling effect. Be careful. In integral yoga, you are running very fast. And when you are running very fast, if you are not very sure of where you are putting your step, you may lose much of the ground that you have acquired. Be very careful. I am not trying to instill a fear. I am trying to install a precaution. You understand the difference? And sometimes in science, we take many precautions but never use it. Similarly, this statement of mine also, it is only a precaution, don't use it. I am not saying as a warning. But try to understand that whenever there is a ruffling aspect, understand ruffling? Where there is a misunderstanding and where there is an open strife. Remember, if you don't solve it in an integral way, you are going back in your evolution. Page 53, he who chooses the infinite has been chosen by the infinite. This is the faith which we should have. We have the infinite power with us because we have chosen to understand the infinite. Make this a law. You should enter into your day-to-day life. You should feel it and you should act accordingly. Next. An integral and synthetic yoga needs especially not to be bound by written or traditional shastras, for while it embraces the knowledge received from the past, it seeks to organize it anew for the present and the future. Self-evident. No explanation necessary. By this yoga, we not only seek the infinite, that formula you remember? One who chooses the infinite also chooses him. That is what the importance Sri Aurobindo is stressing here. By this yoga, we not only seek the infinite, but we call upon the infinite to unfold himself in human life. In whose human life? In your human life, in your physical bodies, in your emotional bodies, in your mental bodies, the infinite must unfold himself. Therefore, the Shastra of our yoga must provide for an infinite liberty in the receptive human soul. That is why everyone have to develop your own yogic methods. You have to develop your own method, because how that infinity is going to work in you is certainly different from how it is going to work from a man who is just beside you in the same family, because it is infinite. But the principle is same. The principle is same. What is that principle? The lower three, the Annamaya Purusha, the Pranamaya Purusha and the Manomaya Purusha, are now controlling our lives. These three have a hold on our life. We won't decide, our desires decide. I want to do japa for 3 hours. I sit for japa. Someone comes. So who dominated? Not me, not my wish, but the body's wish not to do. Am I clear? Many times you follow the ordains of your physical or emotional or mental thoughts rather than what you have decided. And now, these three is different from everyone else. And what is the infinite do? It has to mold you. And it has to mold you as you have to be molded. And it is certainly different from the other man. Therefore, in the end, you have to develop your own integral yoga. Next. One may say that the perfection of integral yoga will come when each man is able to follow his own path of yoga. Time enough? I will give that 15 minutes break now itself.